Zach Wilson, fact or fiction, is going to prove that he's the answer for the Jets at quarterback?
I'm going to say fiction. And look, a lot of people got upset when I talked about the Jets earlier this year and not having high expectations for them like their fan base. But neither does Vegas. And that's the reality for this team. And this doesn't help either, the fact that now you're starting left tackle, one of your first round picks is going to be out for the rest of the season with a knee injury. So that's only adding to it. But look at the schedule. I mean, look at the first 4 games you're playing the entire AFC North. And it looks like Deshaun Watson's not going to be there week 2 for the Browns. I would still take the Browns roster over the Jets. Sorry about it. And the rest of this schedule in the first 9 games is an absolute gauntlet. Now, I do think they're going to win a lot more football games after their bye in week 10, and that's where they'll pick up some steam. Will Zach Wilson be improved? Of course. They had Garrett Wilson to help him out on the outside. It's hard to be much worse than they were last season, but the reality is I don't know that he's going to be able to prove that he's the guy with that schedule, not having a guy like Becton up front, and really taking the leap that I think this offense needs to take. So, again, you'll see improvement. They're not going to be what they were a year ago. It's a better roster. It'll be a better team. They're just not going to be able to prove that he is indeed the guy after year 2.
Over-under's 4.5 for wins. You think they get more than that?
It's gone down. I think we did this about a month or so ago.
I think it
like
has as well. Now, there's a lot of juice to the over. It's minus 290. You don't often see that. Plus 235 for the under 4.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think at 4.5, I'd say, yeah, I could see them winning 5 or 6 games. You know, again, the second half of their schedule really lightens up. You know, again, week 2, not having Watson, I still think that's probably a game the Browns win. Week 4, who's a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? It's a great defense, but if it's Trubisky, is it Pickett? Maybe you feel a little better about that. But after that, I mean, again, the rest of the first 9 games, you're lucky to win 2. So you're hoping that you can win 4 games down the stretch and maybe hit about 6 wins or so, but that's probably about where they're going to be at.
All right, playing fact or fiction on a bunch of second-year quarterbacks with Brady Quinn. Trevor Lawrence will show why he was basically a can't-miss prospect taken #1 last year. Underwhelming rookie season.
Yeah, underwhelming for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things going on down there in Jacksonville, but one of the things they wanted to shore up this offseason was getting him help. They spent $175 million this offseason. That's how much the Jacksonville Jaguars paid out to be able to help support Trevor Lawrence, whether it's on the offensive line, helping him as far as pass catchers, or even on defense so he doesn't have to win a shootout every time. So you're going to see improvement from this offense from Trevor Lawrence, but you look at the division around them too. I mean, I think if you're looking at the AFC South, I think you got questions about a number of these teams. And so I think the sheer fact that Doug Peterson takes over, he's had success with younger quarterbacks before, all the additions they've made this offseason, this will be a better football team. Trevor Lawrence will be a better quarterback as well. I'm buying this one. I'm saying fact.
Okay, fact for him. Trey Lance, a guy that we don't know much about as a pro player because we only saw him in a couple of games of action last year, but they're moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he's still on the roster. Lance is going to be the starting quarterback. Fact or fiction, Lance will be better than Jimmy G ever was.
I mean, first off, this is incredibly, I'm not even sure how you put this question because look what Jimmy G did the 2 years he was actually healthy in San Francisco. He goes to a Super Bowl to win the NFC, and they go to another NFC championship game. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's problem isn't whether or not he can be successful. It's if he can stay healthy. And so will Trey Lance be able to do that? I don't know. In the short term right now, I'm going to say fiction. I don't know that he's going to be able to do or replicate what Jimmy Garoppolo was able to do. I think 49ers fans are taking for granted what Jimmy Garoppolo brought to the table. Look, Lance is extremely raw. He's got 1 year of starting play at the college level, albeit a lower level. Now, he's got upside. He's got athleticism. He's got a strong arm. And he's with an offensive coordinator who's going to be able to work to all those strengths and run the football. And he's throwing to arguably the best tight end in the game in George Kittle. All that being said, there's still a lot of growing pains that are going to take place this year. So I have a hard time in the short term believing we're going to see the best out of Trey Lance. I need to see something from him here in the next couple of years before I could buy into that narrative.
Okay, fiction that Trey Lance is going to be better than Jimmy G. How about Mac Jones, who was better than a lot of people expected last year in his rookie campaign for the Patriots? Fact or fiction, he'll regress in his sophomore season?
I'm going to say fact, but this doesn't have to do with Mac Jones. This has to do with the coaching staff. You lose Josh McDaniels. You lose arguably one of the best play callers that you have in the NFL to become the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Who steps in his place? Well, Matt Patricia, I guess. I mean, they're not giving him a title because obviously we want to still make sure he can receive some of the compensation from the Detroit Lions that he's still owed. So he's going to call the plays. Joe Judge, I believe, is working with the quarterbacks as well. Look, these guys don't have experience necessarily on that side of the football. That's fine. I'm not saying they can't adjust and do that. The problem for Patricia is going to be play calling. You know, I get he has a background on the offensive side of the ball, but when you've spent all your time, all your career on one side of the ball, you develop an identity. You have a blueprint for what you are as a play caller and how you react to certain situations. You've got to figure that out now as an offensive play caller. It's not so easy to do. It's much more complicated. It's way more intricate. There's a lot more things that go into play calling for offense as compared to defense. So I think they're going to take a step back because you're going to be fighting Matt Patricia trying to figure out what his identity as a play caller this year, and then figuring out what the identity of this team is and what they do well second to that. So again, it's not on Mac Jones in this case. I think he's still going to be what they predicted he would be in drafting him. It's just going to be that filling out process between the chemistry of Matt Patricia and Mac Jones working together.
All right, how about Pete Prisco's favorite quarterback from last year's class? Davis Mills will lead the Texans over their win total of 4.5.
I'm going to say fiction, although this one could be close. I really could go either way here. I do think they're a better football team than they were a year ago, and I think the experience helped Davis Mills. Pete's right. Davis Mills put some impressive tape out there. Now, some of it was a bit in garbage time. This is a bad football team. They're young. They're going to be starting some rookies. They're devoid of talent in some areas. So that's the hard thing is if you can't stack up with the rest of the teams in your division, you have a hard time winning football games. They don't have necessarily the easiest schedule either. So I'm going to say fiction. I don't feel great about it, and it surely is not for Davis Mills and how he's played. I think he is potentially something here that they've got working for them that maybe he will be the guy that, after this year, what they see happens. But the problem is they need to surround him with more talent right now.
Okay, how about a guy that definitely needs more talent in his second year around him? That would be Justin Fields in Chicago. He had 420 rushing yards last year. His over-under rushing yards this year, 550.5. Is he going to go over 600 rushing yards? Fact or fiction?
I'm going to say fact. He's almost going to have to go over that. Who's he throwing to? I mean, at this point, you're looking at a backfield that I think, just forget the fact that there might not be anyone open outside of Darnell Mooney. He's going to have to take off and run at times, too, just to make this offensive rushing attack more effective. The offensive line play hasn't been great. I mean, you're going to see a lot of this, him scrambling around, making plays and making something out of nothing. So I think in order for the Chicago Bears to be successful and even have a chance of winning games, you have to allow this young man to utilize his legs. He's a legitimate threat running the football, and if you take that away from him, you're taking off potentially one of the most explosive players in your offense.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.